Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
That's right, that's how we stay warm. You know, my name is Tom Tinlin, I'm Highway Administrator, and I have the honor of being the MC today. You know, the last time I joined Governor Baker and Mayor Walsh on Comm Ave, it's very, very similar weather. We gathered to remember our past and to commemorate the heroic actions that followed the tragic events of the 2013 Boston Marathon, and to always keep alive the sense of community that followed. But today, we're here to look to our future and to move one of Boston's major arterials into the 21st century. This project is a direct result of many great partnerships from federal, state, and local government, support and assistance from a great institution of higher education, to a very engaged advocacy group, neighboring municipalities, and a governor who knows how to move us all forward by making connections. That's why it's fitting that he is here today to speak on a project that connects not just many forms of transportation, but also communities, institutions, and neighborhoods, and moves us all forward. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the 72nd Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Please welcome Charlie Baker.
The highway administrator told me that it's just a pure coincidence that I can see a gantry as I look out that window. But beyond that, let me just say a couple things. The first is, I lived in this neighborhood, various parts of it, as a young man for quite a while, so I'm pretty familiar with how busy it is and how many modes of transportation find their way up and down it in the course of a day. And I think this project, which is, as Tom said, is a real joint effort between the local community, a great university, the city of Boston, the federal government, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to take what fundamentally I think is a reimagining of how this ought to work and put it all together as a collaborative effort. And from our point of view, this is the sort of thing that we like to be part of. We appreciate opportunities to work closely with our colleagues in local government on not just these kinds of projects, but other projects of similar ilk that help them improve not just their traffic flow, but also the feel and the sense of their neighborhoods and their downtowns and their throughways. And this project in particular is a great example of all of the above. And I do want to give this city special commendation. They had developed a plan to deal with this several years ago. And as we went forward with our Complete Streets program at the state level, made a decision to not just dust that plan off, but to dust that plan off and make it better, and to work closely with folks in the local community and with the university to turn it into something that I think at the end of this we're all going to be enormously pleased and proud of. Thanks again for the chance to be here, and ignore the gantry.
That's the whole point, you can ignore a gantry.
Nicely done.
Talk myself right out of a jump. So, as the governor alluded to, you know, I do want to acknowledge the presence of our most immediate federal partner. And this project would not be possible without the 80% funding that we get from Federal Highway. So I want to welcome the Divisional Administrator from Federal Highway, Jeff McEwen, who is here. Please a nice round of applause for Jeff. And also, I know who's always an enormous help on all infrastructure projects in his district, Congressman Mike Capuano. I know John Linacek from the Congressman's office is here. John, thank you for joining us. So, you know, sometimes multimodalism is difficult to accomplish. It's actually even difficult to say, especially in a city with 416-year-old infrastructure. So, although it's easy sometimes to push away from the table, our next speaker and his team leaned forward and worked hard to make a difference and have the tough conversations to see this project through. Please welcome our Mayor, Marty Walsh.
Thank you, Tom, and I want to thank you and the governor. Thank you, Governor Baker, for being here, for what you've done, Stephanie Pollock, and all the folks at MassDOT. This truly is a collaboration. I want to thank you all very, very much. I know in these days of trying to answer questions and everything else, we are moving things forward as well as a team. So I want to thank you for that. I also want to thank President Brown, Galen Mook, and everyone else that was part of how getting to this point today. I want to thank the Boston Public Works Department, Boston Transportation Department, our Commissioner Gina Fandarka, Jim Galluli's here as well for your great work and getting to this point today. I'm not going to go too much into conversations, but Commonwealth Avenue is full of students and of families. It's home to local businesses. It's steeped in history, as we all know. It's a gateway boulevard in our city. We've seen too many crashes, injuries, deaths in this area, and twice as many as the state average. So I know the cycling community has worked extremely hard, particularly in all this great work. Christopher Weigel was a 23-year-old Boston University graduate student with a future in photojournalism. In 2012, he lost his life at the intersection of Comm Ave and St. Paul. Chris's brother Dustin is with us today. And last winter, Dustin told me the story about talking to improve our streets. Dustin now studies transportation planning at MIT. I want to thank Dustin for being here and working to improve the lives of so many Bostonians, and thank you, Dustin, for that. And, you know, it's important for us that we continue to work together. And this isn't city versus state versus federal government. This is all of us working together. We're intertwined here. And to add Boston University and the institutions and businesses into this conversation is so important. So I want to thank all of you for being here today. I also want to give a special thank you to State Representative Kevin Honan, who has been working for years at the State House on transportation bond bills and in this neighborhood. I want to thank City Councilor Mark Siomo, who's a partner with me in the city to make sure that we have what we have. So again, to all of you here, thank you so much for being here today. This is a very good announcement. This is a very good plan. And this is something that neither myself or the governor are going to say, well, we've done it now. We're going to continue to work to make sure as we continue to get complete streets and safe streets in the city of Boston, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And the Mayor acknowledged his team, especially led by the efforts of Commissioner Gina Fandarka of the Boston Transportation Department. But, you know, every project has that certain quarterback. You know, the one person that won't let it go. You know, they're in your office, they're on their phone, they're fighting for funding. And I do want to give a special shout out and acknowledgement for my friend Jim Galluli, who would not let this go. You know, there's been many secretaries of transportation, sometimes in the same year, but none, same week, but none, I would argue, with the vision to see the full value of innovative projects like this one. Even though she started her tenure under 100 feet of snow, her leadership has improved our varied transportation systems and made us all look at how we address transportation. You know, my favorite phrase that the Secretary shares liberally is transportation is less about what it is, roads, bridges, tunnels, sidewalks, buses, and trains, and more about what it does. Connects people to opportunities, jobs, family, friends, healthcare, and she never lets us forget that. This project is evidence of that. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Stephanie Pollard.
Thank you, and I'm delighted to be here, and I'm delighted that the Massachusetts Department of Transportation has been able to partner with our colleagues in the city of Boston and with our federal colleagues and with Boston University and with the community to make this project happen. It is a project that a lot of people put a lot of thought and work and advocacy and engineering into to make it happen. It is a perfect example of what happens when government and the community and institutions and people actually roll up their sleeves and say, if we all think together, we will come out with a better outcome than any of us could come out with separately. So it's a very exciting day for the project. Tom rightly called out Jim Galluli. I'm going to call out somebody else started on this project as an outside advocate at the Livable Streets Alliance and is here today at the groundbreaking as the first ever Director of Sustainable Mobility at MassDOT, and we're delighted to have her, Jackie DeWolf. So, you know, if you were to stand here with a little clicker, about 100,000 cars and people would go by this spot in a busy day. This is a really busy street. And the interesting thing is, if you were to do that, you would find that almost exactly a third of them were driving in cars, a third of them were getting off the T, buses in the Green Line, and a third of them were walking or driving or riding on bicycles. So this is really the perfect project that embodies the concept of a complete street. We say the complete streets are for all users, but sometimes we forget that even on our busiest streets, all users does not just mean the people in cars. This project will remind us of that. It will make this street a lot safer, and it will also, I think, serve not just locally and throughout the Commonwealth, but as a national model of the right way to do a street. So thank you all for coming, and look forward to watching the project as it is constructed over the next 2.5 years.
Thank you, Secretary. I do want to also acknowledge the efforts of one of our colleagues in government who is not here, Representative Mike Moran. You know, the representative, please. You know, the representatives helped sponsor, along with his colleagues at the State House, a bill that would allow the city of Boston to actually take some land in Brookline. So, no, Mayor, you can't tax that, and you do have to give it back. But, you know, working with Senator Will Brownsberger, again, Representative Honan, Councilor Siomo, that combined effort 100% and completely across the board. So let's hear it for the elected leadership of this area, please. You know, I mentioned partnerships earlier. And Boston University was there from day one. Not only did they contribute with innovative thinking, but also put their money where their mouth was. They know better than most, as the mayor had referred to earlier, that this project would enhance safety for all users. Funding the design was a jump start to this, and they took a real sense of civic responsibility, and that sense starts at the top. Please welcome the president of Boston University, Robert Brown.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for hanging in here with us today. We're huddled together for a reason. It's because we're cold and wet, and I'll try not to take much more of your time. But we always talk about projects like this as all the pieces fall into place. I hope you have a sense from the discussion this afternoon that these pieces don't simply fall into place. It takes active support from all forms of government and the institutions to make a project like this come together, and it'll have a very significant difference on this stretch of Commonwealth Avenue. I've been president long enough at Boston University to have lived through the planning and the implementation of a similar project on the stretch that was called Cap 1 between Kenmore Square and the BU Bridge. And this last 2 weekends ago, we had alumni back on campus, 3,500 alumni at events, 6,000 people attending events. And they remarked over and over again about what a transformation it meant to our campus and to the community what happened between Kenmore Square and the BU Bridge. The streetscape for pedestrians, the bike lanes for cyclists, the reduced traffic as we brought the lanes down, the plantings, all of those things. And what I was able to say to them is just stay tuned. If you live through the period of orange barrels, which will last several years, we will have the same kind of streetscape on this stretch of Commonwealth Avenue. And we'll transform it in exactly the same ways that happened 5-6 years ago on the east section. And I also want to be remiss not to thank Congressman Capuano, who couldn't be with us today, because it takes long-term vision to stay through one of these projects. They take a long time to bring everyone together, and Michael is one of the constant pieces of that happening. You know, when you look at Boston University and you think about why we invest, we're a university that thrives only when the city around us thrives. And if you look at this west stretch of our campus, this is a major part of our campus. We have, as a university, over the next several years, in the decade past, we will invest at about $1 billion in new facilities on this part of our campus. It's incredibly important to us, and this project will mean a tremendous amount to our students and our faculty and staff as they communicate up and down Commonwealth Avenue. And I want to thank, again, everyone that's here that's made this project possible, and thank you for all of our community. Thank you.
Did somebody get electrocuted? All right. Well. No, yes. Nice move. That was pretty good. Yeah. So just don't pull the plug on the gantry, whatever you do. So that's a. I guess it's doing arithmetic at BU now. Every major advocacy group has played a role in making this project what it is today. Whether you're talking about Walk Boston, Livable Streets, or the many cyclist groups that all invested so much passion and time in seeing this project reach its full potential. You know, some of us, we get paid to do this work. Some of us volunteer to do this work, and they take time away from their family, their friends, their lives, to make sure that we in government are getting it right. And to speak on behalf of our stakeholder community and all the advocates, I'd like to introduce Galen Mook from Landry's Bicycles, as well as BU Bikes, to speak.
Thanks. I'm very humbled to be here, and I do think all of my friends are in the advocacy group, so the more meetings I go to, the more I get to hang out with them too. I'd like to start, of course, by tapping the microphone, and I'm just gonna... Is it good? Let's see. Let me know if I should just keep... And we're back. All right.
We're back.
All right. Who's excited to be here? Yeah, me too. We've been at this for a long time, and I'd like to start by thanking everyone involved in this project, so it's going to be a while. City of Boston, the Boston Transportation Department, of course, for their outreach and endless design revisions. Mayor Marty Walsh for taking me up on my offer to go on a bike ride on Com Ave. That was very illuminating, which is great. The engineers, of course, for their innovation and bold designs. Boston University for the leadership. Our leaders on Beacon Hill and at the State House and at Mass DOT for funding such a progressive project and sticking with it for 20 plus years at this point. And I do want to say, of course, special thanks to Jim Galluli at the City of Boston. He truly listened to the community, and he really shepherded this project through the many challenges. And I think we're all on the same page. We are looking to make Com Ave a safer street for everybody, so that's certainly a thank you there. I also want to thank, speaking on behalf of the advocacy campaign that is still ongoing here, I do want to thank the organization specifically of Livable Streets Alliance, Walk Boston, the Boston Cyclists Union, Mass Bike, the BU Bikes student group, and the hundreds upon hundreds of biking and walking and transit and disability advocates who signed petitions and came to meetings and voiced their concerns. And along those lines, I do also want to specifically recognize the tenacity of Matthew Danish, who is a former PhD student here at BU, and he carried the torch for several years, and he never wavered from the vision that he wanted to make Com Ave with protected bike lanes, protected intersections, consolidated MBTA stops, and better throughput of traffic. So just want to make that known to anybody who doesn't know Matt. He's out in Cambridge now pursuing his postdoc. I do think Com Ave Phase 2 project, this is a watershed moment for the transportation movement here in Boston and the Commonwealth in general. And I do think it is symbolic of the progress that we've gained through forming coalitions, through working with all the stakeholders to achieve the best outcomes. It's a testament to the partnerships forged over years between the government and the advocates and the local businesses and the institutions. And I think that's critical for how our civil society will operate. We all came together here, and we all wanted to figure out how to make this a collaborative effort. And we all made a project that we can be proud of. So I want to kind of say that everybody here is a part of this. Over 8 years ago, as was alluded to by President Brown here, that the Com Ave Phase 1 project brought the city's first bike lanes, not far from where we're standing right here. And the city worked together with the advocates to make that signature project happen. And thanks greatly to that success, the administration then launched its holistic bicycle program throughout the city. And we brought Boston up from being the worst cycling city in America to being one of the best. And as proud as we were of the city and BU and the state and all the partners for giving us a single white lane as a bike lane, we still acknowledge that this infrastructure is only going to get us so far. The challenge before us now is how to get biking seen as a common and safe mode of transportation for everybody. And those of us in the advocacy movement, we focus on the 6 E's of bike planning. That's education, equity, enforcement, evaluation, encouragement, and most pertinent today, it's engineering. And through evolving conversations that began way back in 2008, we now realize that there is a distinct limit to the public safety when we as cyclists are sharing the street with automobiles. There will be a limit to it. So we saw ComAv Phase 2 as allowing us to pose the questions of how can we be better? Will we be a leader in the next generation of bike facilities? Will this street be the first protected bike lane of many that will get Boston towards its goal of its long-range bike plan? And I'm really honored to say that here we are. And we've answered these questions, and it is a resounding yes. And I'm so honored to be here and point to this project and to the soul searching that we've all done, to the hard work and the action that has come from that hard work. And it's something that we can be proud of for years to come. And I, again, just want to thank the City of Boston, the state, Boston University, the advocacy organizations, and all the individuals who participated in this coalition. And we are all striving to make our city a much better place to live. And I think this is a wonderful project that we can all point to as a success. Thank you.
Thank you. How was that, huh? Nicely done. What more can you say, but thank you all so very much. This project is going to just be the new bar. We've raised the bar today, and we'll continue to do so. We'll continue to challenge ourselves, because after all, the roads are made for all. We work for you. This wouldn't be possible without your input. Now let's go do some shovels, okay? Thank you all very much.